Wife cheated on me with a random guy, and now she's begging to reconcile while I'm divorcing her. So my wife, 23, and I, 26, have been together for 3 years. We both fell madly in love with each other when we first met. We instantly moved in together in less than a year after I proposed to her. We finally got married April of this year. We've been married now for roughly 7 months. It was a fantastic wedding, and I can honestly say it was the happiest day of my life. About 4 months ago, I found out that she had been talking to a guy she met online. She had went on a date with him. She came clean about it and I forgave her. I asked her why she did it, and she said that she felt like our spark was gone and that I wasn't giving her what she needed in our marriage. I forgave her in hopes of change for the better. After that, things were not the same anymore. The arguments were almost non-stop. We would sleep separately on and off. She would constantly bring up divorce and tell me how I'm not man enough to support her or fulfill her needs. I really tried my best. We ended up going on a little weekend getaway trip in hopes to bring that spark back. 2 weeks after our trip, I found out that she was still talking to the same guy. I forgave her again. I tried to give her everything she needed, physically, emotionally, financially. Again, things seemed like they were going back to normal. A month later, the arguments started again. She would pick fights over the smallest issues, and of course I was the one to always try to reconcile and make things better. She stopped being intimate with me for 2 whole months at this point. Fast forward to this past week, we've argued like we never have before. She decided the only option left for us was divorce. I told her that I didn't want a divorce. I wanted our marriage and the life we had together. 2 days ago, we reconciled again. We decided that we were going to stay together. As always, with all the faith and love I had for her, I didn't think twice on the possibility of saving our marriage. Fast forward to yesterday, we got into a really big fight. I told her that she was being a terrible wife and that I deserved better. She ended up telling me that she's on multiple dating sites and she wants to see other people and end our marriage. I didn't know what to say to her after she made that comment. I was hurt and I left the house to give myself space to process things. She eventually texted me and said that she was going to start dating other men. She was done with our marriage and that she is going to file for divorce. She didn't care about my feelings at all. I tried to explain to her that although emotionally she was checked out of the relationship for however long, I was still in love with her, and that it wasn't fair for her to start seeing other men while still living together and being married. By the time I got back home, she was gone. She left behind a letter basically letting me know that she hopes we can still be friends after everything, but that she is going to finally start living her life again. I tried calling her and texting her, but she had blocked me on everything. She didn't come back home until midnight. I tried to talk to her, but she didn't want to have a conversation with me and went straight to bed. Deep down inside, I knew she had been with someone else. In hopes of answers and closure, I grabbed her computer and went through her messages. Her computer is synced with her phone, so all her text messages go to her computer. I dug deep and I found the most devastating thing I could have came across. She had sex with a guy she had just met yesterday on a dating app. It was their first time meeting. She had texted her best friend that her intention was not to sleep with him, but that she felt like the chemistry was right. Apparently, this guy is rich, tall, and very good looking. She also told her friend that this is the first time she has had sex in the past 2 months and ever having sex outside of our relationship. She mentioned that it was exhilarating and that she didn't regret it and that she would do it again. So here's where I'm at. I'm in complete turmoil. I haven't felt like I could breathe in hours, uncontrollably crying on and off, asking myself every question I possibly could. How could the woman I love so much and put on a pedestal do this to me? How did we get to this point? Am I not good enough? Who is this person I thought I knew and married? What happened to our marriage and when did she stop loving me? What did I do that wasn't good enough for her? On top of everything, I'm plagued with thoughts of her giving herself to someone else, and it is absolutely destroying me. I never thought the woman I considered to be my soulmate would do this to me. I know our marriage is over and I know that I will never forgive her. I also accept that whoever she has become, I will never be able to change her. Above all else, I still love her. I still wish things were how they used to be. I wish she would have focused on us and worked harder on our marriage. I know it's going to be a long road of recovering and picking up the broken pieces. It's going to take me a long time to get over this or past it. I don't feel fully ready for the journey ahead, but I know that I'm going to have to try to move on from her. Everything is still so fresh and we haven't spoken since she last went out. I'm going to give myself some time to compose myself, to gather my thoughts and feelings before I try to talk to her again. I'm not sure yet if it's even worth confronting her about sleeping with this random guy she met. If you've read this far, I appreciate you. I just really needed to get this off my chest. Update: I feel like I'm finally growing out of this constant cycle I've been going through with my wife. I heard and listened to a lot of what you guys said about not having enough self-respect to value myself enough to not put up with how things have been. For once in our relationship, I stopped playing the pick-me game. I stopped giving in to her demands and I stopped trying to understand her or forgive her. After that night, where she voiced her desire to end our marriage and ended up sleeping with some random guy she met off a dating app, emotionally I have detached myself from her. Everything I used to see in her is gone. The woman I put up on a pedestal is no longer in that place. She's been begging to try to save our marriage. The last 2 days, she has relentlessly tried to convince me that things would change. She even went as far as to sensually try to entice me by flaunting herself around the house. Honestly, that pulled me away even harder. She still doesn't know that I know she slept with him. The only thing she knows is that I'm done with her and our marriage. I can say that this is the first time I've ever felt this way, and truly have meant every word of not wanting to reconcile with my wife. This is also the first time she has ever fought for me. But I feel like I'm gone. The damage has been done and that I need to move on with my life. She only started caring once I pulled away completely. I don't think she ever thought that she would lose me. How would she when I've always been there for her and forgiven her? The last interaction I had with her was supposedly her last chance of reconciliation. After days of me not giving in, she finally blamed me for not loving her and for walking away from our marriage. Apparently, I don't love her enough to fix us. She explained to me how she still sees a future and that she doesn't want to lose me. I explained to her that I'm done giving her chances. Instead of focusing on the reasons of why I felt how I did, all she did was blame me for not loving her enough to stay. Now I'm the bad guy. I'm the guy who broke her heart and the one that walked away from her after she didn't get what she wanted, and my response was opposite of what she's used to. Her narrative is that her husband is leaving her because he doesn't love her. She's the victim now and the one that is in pain and grieving. She's spent the last few days crying in her bedroom alone, often letting me know that I'm an awful husband for watching her cry and not comforting her. Honestly, I'm just tired. I'm tired of caring and loving someone that doesn't respect me. Everything I used to see in her is gone. It's bad to say that I've gotten to this point only when she physically got involved with someone else, but that changed everything for me. It's no longer hard to picture a life without her. Does it still hurt? Yes, but I'm not lying to myself anymore and thinking that there's any type of future with her. Also, I appreciate everyone for their advice and listening to me. Reading all of your posts really helped keep me level-headed and realized where I was wrong in the situation. You guys gave me the strength to change the cycle. I never realized some of the things I was doing that was ultimately rewarding her for her behaviors. I found it in myself to have that respect that I deserve, and I've decided I'm fully going through the divorce. Story 2. I married my best friend last year. We've been together for 8 years, and it's been the most amazing and fulfilling relationship I've ever had. We had the perfect life. We have the cutest little puppy, and she's the most loyal and loving little creature I've ever met. We've been saving for a house in our dream city, and we were just about ready to pull the trigger this year. We were planning to adopt afterwards. We finally paid off all our student loans. We have amazing friends and hobbies that we're both passionate about. We did everything together, dates multiple times a week, every weekend for sure, and usually a few during the week as well. Road trips and vacations and events. We stayed up late every night cuddling and talking about our future together. We have a million little inside jokes and we sent flirty texts to each other all day. We had an amazing sex life, every one of our fantasies, every day, often multiple times a day. We made it through graduate school and the pandemic and all sorts of other tumultuous life events together. I work from home, and I took care of all the house chores so she didn't have to. I took care of the dog. I did the training and the walking and the feeding so that she wouldn't have that extra stress. I make 4 times her salary so that she can work her dream job, which doesn't, by itself, make enough to pay rent, etc. Since we're in NYC. I've never complained about any of this, and being able to do all these things for her always made me so proud and happy so that she could fulfill her own professional dreams. And she still cheated on me. She cheated with a coworker she's only known for a few months, who is way younger than her and who is her subordinate at work. I told her I would be willing to work through it in therapy together, that I could forgive her because our life was so amazing. And she told me she was so sorry and would do anything to make things right, that she had never meant to hurt me. But I found out last week that she is still cheating on me with him. And when I confronted her, she became unrecognizable. She was verbally abusive and yelled at me and told me that she had never loved me or our puppy. She told me that she had just been using me all along, and now that she'd found someone else, she didn't need me anymore, and that she didn't feel any remorse or guilt and had only pretended to apologize when she got caught the first time so that she could keep using me for money. I should be angry, but I just feel so sorry for her. I'm still going to have an amazing life. I took our dog, my dog now I guess, and moved out. I'm still going to be buying that house alone now. All my friends, also our friends, and even her friends have been so supportive. Even her family has been so supportive of me. She's losing a lot of friends. She's losing me, her best friend, at the very least. She might lose her job. She can't afford rent where she's living either way. She always liked expensive shows and clothes and hobbies and going out to eat, and now she can't have any of that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But she doesn't return my calls anymore, so I guess this is it. I'll never understand what happened or why she gave up on our life together out of nowhere like this. Update: I was completely overwhelmed by the response to my original post, and was so busy dealing with the fallout, emotional and otherwise, of my soon-to-be ex-wife's affair to respond to everyone's messages. So a quick apology to anyone's DM I didn't respond to. I've never gotten hundreds of messages before on any platform, but I did see them and they did help me feel less crazy, so thank you everyone. As many of you predicted, she tried to come back. Multiple times in fact. The last 2 months have been insane in a lot of ways for me. I encouraged her to see a therapist, and she was diagnosed with a personality disorder. She didn't tell me the specifics, but my own therapist suspects borderline personality disorder for what it's worth. I still love and care about her so much that every time she called me sobbing telling me she hadn't meant it and would do anything to make things right again, I fell for it and told her I would help any way I could. In retrospect, it was so bizarre and entrancing, seeing these glimpses of the person I used to know, reaching back out to me in such obvious pain. And so every time she told me, stone-faced, a few days after apologizing, that she hadn't meant the apology and had only said it to manipulate me, and had faked the tears. It hurt so much more, having just seen these glimpses of the wonderful person I knew for 8 years. I got so lost in trying to help her during these isolated moments of normalcy that I lost track of how many times she abruptly switched her entire attitude towards me. It was only recently that I went back and counted 15 times that she switched between telling me that she loves me and had learned from her mistake and couldn't wait to hold me again, and telling me that she had no regrets, had never loved me, and that she had only ever been manipulating me. At one point during one of her days of normalcy, she told me that, when she thought back on how she had treated me, she felt like she had been kidnapped by aliens and replaced with a body double, like she had been watching an evil version of herself destroy my life while she watched helpless from space. And then when I called her a few days later and she started yelling at me for not being good enough and telling me that she was busy with her affair partner, who she had sworn she was done with just 2 days before, I reminded her of her alien story. She told me that she didn't remember telling me that she would never say something so dumb, but if she had, it would have only been to manipulate me. I've never been a victim of abuse before this, so it took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to realize what she was doing to me. I always thought when I saw other people being treated so poorly, wow, I would never let that happen to me. But when I was actually in that situation, all I could think of was how I could help her. I always try to see the best in people, and as far as I know, this is the first time someone who is close enough to me to know that has purposefully taken advantage of it to keep hurting me with no intention of stopping. It still feels so strange, like I hallucinated the last 8 years of my life. But I filed for divorce this week. I didn't respond to her last call. I know exactly how it would have gone. The apologies, swearing she would make things better, that she loves me so much. And then a few days later, the shouting and the abuse and telling me that I wasn't good enough for her and that she had never loved me. Also, in some DMs people mentioned something about hearing about my original post from my TikTok. I don't have a TikTok, so I guess someone is impersonating my throwaway account, which is strange. Just a heads up, if anyone is personally invested in my story at all, this is the only place online that I'm writing about it. Any other accounts are not me. Edit. Also a quick update for all the kind people wondering how I'm doing personally. I've been having a blast going on adventures with my dog. My friends have all been taking turns reaching out every day. My family has been amazingly supportive. My manager told me to take a month off work to sort myself out, and it was super refreshing. Being back at work afterwards has been great. My coworkers have been hyping me up and checking in with me at lunch. I was able to get back to some old hobbies I had dropped because of the pandemic, and made some new friends there. It's been good. I'm good. Story 3. I, 32 male, was married to my ex-wife, Jane, 30 female, for 5 years. Our marriage ended after I discovered she had been cheating on me for about a year with multiple men. She got pregnant and confessed that she doesn't know if the baby was mine or her affair partner's. A couple of months after the divorce, I tried to reach out to her to see if the baby was mine but couldn't, and I learned through a friend she and her new partner had left the country. That was 2 years ago and I thought that was that. Recently, Jane reached out to my mother claiming that her kid is mine and in need of financial help. Jane told my mother that her partner left her when he found out the kid is not his. Now for context, my mother has been desperate for grandkids, especially since my older brother is gay and child-free, and I've been single since the divorce. She's been relentless in pressuring me to help out Jane. However, I have my doubts given her infidelity. I find it hard to trust her claims without concrete evidence, so I've insisted on a paternity test before committing to any financial or emotional support. If the child is indeed mine, I'll gladly step up and fulfill my responsibilities as a father, but I refuse to do so without proper legal documentation. My mother and Jane are both vehemently against the idea of involving lawyers or going through the legal process. They insist that the child is mine based on similar resemblances, like having blue eyes, which I have, but Jane has blue eyes as well. This issue came to a head when my mother posted a picture on Facebook of her, and the kid titled my grandson. Now family members and some friends know about this issue and are contacting me. When I tell them I don't know if the kid is mine and want to do a paternity test, they are calling me selfish and irresponsible. My family members are saying my mother will only say that because she is sure that the kid is mine. My friend says I am an idiot for punishing the kid for what my ex-wife did. There is a chance the kid is mine, but I can't shake off my doubts, and I refuse to be manipulated into a situation where I might end up responsible for a child who may not be mine. I'm willing to do what's right, but I need certainty first. But it's driving me crazy with so many people close to me saying I should just take responsibility. My older brother is the only one who is on my side, and he thinks it's because my mother has accepted the kid that others are willing to accept it too, and because of family bonds, which are a major thing here. But I am standing firm on my decision to do a paternity test. Update: so, a lot of stuff has happened and I am exhausted with dealing with this issue. Despite trying to talk reason to my mother, I got nowhere. My brother and I managed to talk to our aunt, who is on my side after she learned what has happened. She was able to convince mother to talk to me, and we agreed to meet at her house. However, it quickly devolved into arguing, with my mother still insisting the baby is mine and accusing both me and my brother of betraying her for not giving her grandkids. My brother finally snapped and asked her if she was willing to lose 2 sons over this. That made her go quiet. With my aunt's help, we convinced her to talk to Jane for the paternity test. A couple hours after I left, Aunt called me, asked me to arrange the test. According to my aunt, it took some arguing between Mom and Jane to get her to agree to the test, but Jane eventually agreed. So I scheduled the test at a clinic, and the earliest appointment I could get was 3 days from that day. I relayed all of this to my mother and aunt and got the okay from them. The day before the test, my brother and I got a call from our aunt, and she asked us to come to our mother's house ASAP. When we got there, we saw our mother sitting on the sofa crying. I asked what happened, and she said Jane is gone. Now I knew Jane was back in the country and was visiting my mother every day, but I did not know it was my mother who facilitated everything. My mother revealed that after Jane contacted her, she flew Jane and the baby out and put her in an apartment near her house and had been paying rent for her, buying her and the baby things for a month and half before they told me. I live just an hour from my mother, and I talked to her on the phone 4 or 5 times a week, and she never told me. After Jane agreed to the test, she asked for money, as she told my mother that after the test confirms that I am the father, she needs to buy some essential home stuff as she intends to stay near here. My mother gave her an amount close to $8,000 in US dollars. After she got the money, she did not come and see my mother, so my mother went to the apartment and saw that it was empty. I asked why did she ever trust someone who has lied so much before. She said all her friends are grandmothers and they are always with their grandkids, and she feels left out when she is with them. Then she gets up and says all of this is my fault. She comes up to me and slapped me and just went crazy, yelling and crying, and kept hitting me. Aunt and brother managed to get her off me. She kept saying I was a horrible son. I should have just accepted the baby. She then turned to my brother and started yelling at him too, accusing him for instilling his child-free life on me, and told him that he was an embarrassment to her. Then she started off ranting, saying Jane was right to cheat on me, that if I had agreed to start a family with Jane back then, this would not have happened. For context, Jane wanted to try for a baby the second year into our marriage, but I had to keep that on hold as I made a major career change, and Jane and I both agreed to wait until I was financially secure. I also want to point out this was not the reason she gave me for her infidelity. My aunt managed to calm my mother down and somewhat diffuse the situation and asked us to leave. She said she will try to reason with her. I've tried to call my mother the next day, but she's blocked me on everything. My brother and I agree she needs therapy, but she's not willing to listen or talk to us. As for Jane, I am furious at her and wanted to find her. I asked my friends to help and told them what happened. They are idiots, but they apologized to me and stepped up and supported me these past few days. I tried contacting different people through friends and their mutual friends until one of them put me in contact with Claire, who was one of Jane's bridesmaids at our wedding. I told her what happened and she was shocked at learning about it. According to Claire, Jane is back in the country of her partner, and a couple of days ago Jane called her and few others asking for money as she and her partner are going through some financial issues. Claire says she doesn't know if Jane and her partner are separated. Jane had never told her anything of that sort. She said when she talked with Jane, she only said they were struggling. I told Claire what Jane did and that Jane is insisting that her son is mine. Claire said that Jane told her that the kid is her current partner's 2 years back. Then she said she needs to talk to Jane and her partner to see what's going on. Claire kept saying she truly does not know what's going on, but she is going to ask around. That was 6 days ago and I tried to call Claire, but she won't answer me now. I am not going to pursue this anymore. I have my answer. So that's the update. Not the conclusion I wanted, but I don't care anymore. My mother still hasn't talked to me or my brother as of right now. I asked my aunt to let my mother know that if she refuses to talk to us or get help, then me and my brother will go permanently no contact as well. Family still says I am in the wrong as it's my fault for not being married or have kids. I told them to F off and never contact me. My brother and I only tolerated them for my mother anyway. I now firmly believe that the baby is not mine.